Happy Saturday, everybody. How's everybody doing today? So the message that is wanting to come through very strongly through me today is what happens when we are trying to hold a new frequency and anchor into that so that that becomes our new home frequency. So whenever we are expanding and stretching into a new bandwidth of frequency, into a new way of being, whatever it may be, it could be in your business, it could be in your personal life, it could be in your marriage, in your relationships, in your community, could be with your body, could be just with your self-love and your confidence, you're really anchoring a new identity. What happens when we decide and we declare and make that decision that this is the new way of being, this is the new way of doing for you. As we anchor that, as we hold that, all of the old stuff comes up to be dissolved out, to be moved out. And so this is in your physical reality, in your physical body, this is in your emotional body, your energetic body, in your mental body. Everything's coming up. All of these old identities that you once really strongly associated with comes up, all of these self-doubt, these limiting beliefs, these limiting patterns, all of these thoughts come up that say, who am I? Or, there's no way that I'm able to do this. And, I was never shown this growing up, so who am I to be able to create this for myself? She may be able to do it, but I'm not able to do it. I don't have the education. Whatever it is, right? As well as in our physical space, anything that is not attuned to that new frequency needs to go. So for example, whenever I start with a new client, I often tell them to go through their closet and clean out parts of their wardrobe that when they look at it, it reminds them of an old version of themselves that makes them feel constricted. And so what's happening when we clean out our space is we're making room for the new to come in. So as we're holding this new frequency and all of this stuff is coming up, this is designed, well, it's not really designed, but this is just like our way of defaulting to our safety settings. Whatever our default safety settings is, because that's our ego's way of trying to keep us safe, trying to keep us in our comfort zone, because if you're uncomfortable, you're trying something new. If you're uncomfortable, you are creating something different for yourself. So this is where our growth happens. It's outside of our comfort zones, right? So this is where all of our old triggers come up, our default safety settings. Good morning, Colette. Good morning. So for myself, my default safety setting is to shrink back rather than lean in. As a child, I was very, very shy. Growing up as a teenager, I also was very shy. And so I just learned that so that I don't have to speak, so that I don't have to be seen, I hold myself back. I shrink back into the shadows. And that was my default safety setting. And so whenever I'm hitting that glass ceiling, hitting that point where I'm feeling really stretched, I have to really catch myself on all angles, on the physical, emotional, mental, and energetic of, Mary, where are you shrinking back here? Keep leaning in, and continue to lean into the discomfort, knowing and trusting that the longer I do that, soon it's like stretching a rubber band, and then soon it snaps, that eventually that becomes my new default setting, right? So how we move through these default safety settings. Number one, I always recommend my clients to talk to those younger versions of yourself that are not fully on board, because that's ultimately what creates resistance. Is not all parts of us are fully on board, and that's okay. That's totally okay. Every single human being who has ever done something different has felt resistance, has had these old versions of themselves come up and say like, no, don't want this, when we really do want it, but there's that fear within us that is not fully on board. So we just need to get down to the root of it. Number two, like I just said, we lean into the discomfort rather than shrinking back. For any of you who, maybe you were bullied growing up, maybe you, like me, were quite shy, maybe you experienced abuse, you learned the safety setting that holding ourselves back, being quiet, not being seen is what kept us safe. So we need to shift that pattern and create something different. Number 3 is to continuously take action to continue to anchor the new frequency into our physical reality. So we can move things all we want energetically, doing the mindset work, doing the subconscious reprogramming, doing like the emotional stuff where we're talking to our inner child. But if we are not actually taking physical action to affirm that this is our new frequency, our new reality, nothing's going to shift. Nothing is going to physicalize. So this is where we have to be in constant conversation with ourselves and with our personal connection to the divine, to God, to source, of asking, how would you have me show up today? How would you have me anchor this into my physical reality? So yesterday, for example, like I'm very uncomfortable right now. I am in a point in my life where there's a huge, huge shift taking place in my physical reality as well as in my business. And so I'm like going at all angles. I'm hitting the mindset work, I'm hitting the subconscious work, the energetic work, the emotional work. And yesterday, no matter what I was doing in the energetic realm, nothing was shifting. I just felt weird as F. And what came through, actually I talked to my mentor and she's like, you need to physicalize it. So yesterday I took time and I started going through things in my office, getting rid of things. I started to, basically the way I'm doing business is completely different than what I've been taught on how to do business in the past. And so I actually went through old paperwork, old notebooks, old client notes, everything, and I burned them. And that was like my way of physically saying, hey, universe, God, I am holding this new frequency, I'm holding this new reality, and that old energetic clutter that was anchoring me to an old frequency, I'm not holding on to it anymore. I'm letting it go. So I spent about 4 hours yesterday just going through my office, getting rid of old books, just getting rid of anything that anchored me to an old way of being, an old way of feeling, an old way of doing. And last night when I turned out the light, I looked back at my office and it just felt so open, spacious, light, brighter. It's like I took an energetic comb through everything, but I was physically doing it. And by setting the intention to move things and physically release them, it's making way for what's coming in, right? So I encourage you to do that. Like whatever it is that you are stretching into and you're feeling uncomfortable, do some sort of like releasing or burning ceremony where, and you don't have to go all fancy unless if that's what makes you happy. You can go all fancy, but it can be very simple. I just like took my papers down to my fire pit and said, hey, I'm no longer holding on to this. I'm letting this go because my new frequency, my new reality is a totally different way of being and way of operating, and I don't need to hold on to this stuff anymore. And so I'm making room for this new version of myself to be fully embodied in. And so after you do whatever your releasing ceremony is, then do some sort of welcoming arrival party for yourself. You know, put on your theme song and dance it out, or go in front of the mirror and just like have a conversation with yourself that you are owning this, you are standing in your power, that this is who you are, that this is your reality, and that trust that its success is inevitable, you know? And then finally, this is what came through for me last night. This big thing that I'm shifting in my life right now, which is still a bit of a secret. I'm able to talk about it a lot more publicly at the end of the month, which I'm so excited for because it's been a tough secret to sit on. I have allowed myself to get pretty stressed out about certain details and just like fall into these old patterns of wanting to micromanage everything, which is what my little girl self would do as a means of control and a means of safety. So once again, that's that safety default setting, right? It's like, I'm uncomfortable, let's switch into default. And so I was actually kind of viewing this big thing that's happening, which is very exciting. It's something we've been manifesting for years, but it's actually finally physically coming into fruition. I've been looking at it through a old lensing. I've been looking at it through like my smaller human self, my restricted self, my fear-based self. I've been looking through that lensing. And so that's why all of these little details have kind of like wobbled me. And so I heard very clearly last night after I did my physical purge, after I did my burning, after I like kind of like anchored. I'm like, hey, this is it. Like, this is who I am. Like, I'm fully, this is it. I heard shift your lensing. How can you, what if you look at this through your expanded version of yourself rather than through the human limited self? And that just like, as soon as I heard that, it was something shifted in me. That it's like, wow, look at all of the opportunity. Look at the unfolding, the unraveling of this. This is so, yes. And everything is unfolding in the most perfect way. And according to divine alignment, this is what I want. I'm so here for it. I am fully ready for this. I'm receiving this and it's happening. And so it was kind of like, you know, when you go to the eye doctor and you get your prescription checked and the eye doctor is flipping the different prescription lenses in front of your eyes, that's kind of like what it was. It was like, at first I was looking through everything from this kind of like wounded, smaller self lensing, and then it was like expanded self lensing. And so this was like this huge kind of thing that just clicked in for me. I'm like, oh my God, I have to go Facebook Live and share this with people, because it was just like such a quick shift. And then it doesn't mean that I'm not going to continue to shift back to that limited self lensing. But what I do, you become aware of it and you continue to shift up. You continue to shift up into that expanded version of yourself lensing until it fully anchors in. So like your job, when you claim something, when you own something that you are wanting to create for yourself, your job is to hold that frequency. No matter what is happening in your reality, no matter what emotional stuff is coming up, your job is to hold that frequency until it fully anchors in and becomes your vibrational identity. And know and trust that all the stuff is coming up because that stuff that's coming up is not in alignment, is not in vibrational resonance with this new frequency that you're embodying. You already are that frequency, so you just got to clean out, dissolve out, move out what's not in alignment. And so this is actually alignment. It's you aligning with that new frequency. Everything that comes up just can't hang out anymore. It just can't hang out in your field, in your physical reality. And this is where people get tripped up, because it's like they think that they think that it's taking too long to manifest. And they get tripped up by old identities, old realities, and they think that it's not happening. And so then they continue to create that old experience because they've given their power away. That's like, oh, it's been a few days and nothing's happening. But if all your shit's coming up, guess what? It's happening. It's happening. If you're uncomfortable, congratulations. You're doing it. You're doing it. And this is why, my friends, we get support. Because if I did not have my mentor right now to hold me in my vulnerabilities, my human mess, on top of holding me at this frequency until I acclimate to it, I would be doing this. I'd be doing this for months, maybe even a whole year, because when we don't have support to hold us in that, and as we like shift up, our old versions, our old identities, they just get into the driver's seat and they end up driving the bus, and then nothing changes, right? And so we end up prolonging our growth. We end up prolonging the manifestation and the success of whatever it is that we're calling in. And it doesn't mean to say that we're not going to learn a whole bunch of lessons along the way. Heck yes, you're going to learn so much about yourself and about life and about the way that energy works. You're going to learn it all. But if nothing is physically manifesting, this is where we get stuck. And it's also to remind you that the physical realm is like the last point of manifestation. Everything happens in the ethers first, in the unseen realm, in the energetics. And so when we shift all of the energy stuff, we have to hold that frequency. No matter what we're seeing reflected outside of us back to us, we have to hold this frequency, knowing and trusting that it does take time for the physical to upgrade and reflect what you've done in the ethereal realm. So this is what I support clients on. I support clients who are ready to make a shift up, that are ready to make that up level, but they continue to hit that glass ceiling and they're spiraling out and they're just feeling stuck. So I support people that, for example, light workers. A lot of light workers' businesses have come to a complete halt the last 6 months. And they're like, what the fuck is going on? This is because what once was working is no longer working. We're in a completely different energetic playground now. Everything has shifted, and so business is being done from a totally different way. I support light workers and healers in being successful in this new world that we are walking into, in whatever way that success means to them, and whatever it is that they desire to create for themselves. So I support people in creating a life that actually reflects and honors their soul's purpose and their soul's desires. And I hold them at the frequency, at their desired frequency that they're wanting to anchor in, while also helping them move through those fears, the insecurities, the vulnerabilities, basically all that humanness that comes up when we claim that that's what we want. So, when we are growing, yes, it's going to be like kind of messy and like, oh, whoa. But at the same time, we want it to be as fluid and graceful and fun and easy as possible. And this is why we have support to hold us in it. So I have a few spots open for my soul frequency private mentorship coaching. Reach out to me, message me to see if we are aligned with working. I'm also going to leave the link in the comments for you to check out. Feel into it if it feels right. A big piece that I'm supporting clients on right now is really grounding into their physical body and their physical reality, because a lot of light workers and healers, we've gotten really hot mess express with our physical realities and have learned how to bypass all of it. We can go up into all these different dimensions and energetic realms, but our physical reality, a lot of them are bypassing it and not taking full responsibility, or their physical reality is just not reflecting the energetic shifts that they're making in the background. So a key piece to the way that we're moving forward in this world is being fully anchored in our physical bodies and our physical reality, and not separating ourselves, which much of the spiritual community does, not separating ourselves from people that are not walking a similar path. I can speak to this because I know it very, very deeply. I've spent a few years in the spiritual community being very, very isolated from the real world. And that was necessary for my own growth. That was necessary for my own ascension path. It was necessary for my own personal healing. I've been very, very inward the last few years since moving across the world. Being here in Austria, I've really cocooned because there was a lot of self-worth work that I needed to do on myself. There was a lot of healing that I needed to do on myself. But I also played into a whole bunch of, somebody called it woke people traps. And I totally resonate with that because I know them in and out. I know all of the bunnyholes. I know all of them. And when you begin to shift out of that, you kind of come out of like this cloud or this fog that was like, holy shit, I was in an illusion and I didn't even know I was in an illusion. And this is where a lot of spiritual community people are right now, is they're beginning to shift out of the matrix and the illusion that is the spiritual community. And people are feeling effed right up and confused, and they're freaking out. And what was once working isn't working anymore, and they just don't know what to do. And so I am a guiding light for the people that are coming out of that are waking up from that and being like, whoa, what the fuck was all of that about? So it's like really grounding our spirituality, no longer playing into a bunch of these like illusions that and programs that are in the spiritual community, and really like taking our fucking power back. Really reclaiming ourselves, our true soul selves, bringing more of our soul selves online, and being in alignment with what it is that we really, really, really want. My soul wants joy. My soul wants play. My soul wants ease. That is like a huge, huge aspect of my soul's essence. And so if I'm not showing up every day and creating that for myself, I feel right like at battle with myself. And so I work with, the light workers, the change makers, the paradigm disruptors, the rebels that know that when they're not in alignment with themselves, they're at war with themselves. They're at battle. They're in these like self-doubt spirals, and they're just like not knowing what the fuck is going on. Those are the kinds of clients that I work with, because I help them ground into who it is that they're here to be and who it is, or what it is that they're here to do, and be really powerful and authentic in that, because I know what it's like to feel all swallowed up in all of it and just feel like you're in like these non-stop healing loops that you're not actually seeing any sort of physicalization. I love you too, Franny. So on that note, I love you all. I hope you guys have an awesome weekend. And I really can't wait to tell you the secret. It's such a great secret, and it's so difficult for me to sit on it. My husband said in a couple more weeks, I can like get real loud about it on social media, and then I'm going to be talking about it all the time. And no, I'm not pregnant. I'm not pregnant. For any of you that are like, I get messages all the time that like, I had a dream that you're pregnant. I'm not pregnant. I'm not pregnant. Family is in our future, but not right now. Anyways, I love you all. And yeah, if you feel stuck, if you feel it, send me a message. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Bye.